Sabrina Nolan. Sanchusu. I didn't expect much on her birthday. Just a message. A simple wish from her family. But the entire day passed in silence. No calls. No texts. No sign that she existed in their minds. By evening, when the feeling of being forgotten became undeniable, she decided to reach out first in the family group chat where her mother and younger sister were. Her message wasn't accusatory, just a gentle expression of how she felt hurt that no one remembered her birthday. 2 blue check marks appeared almost instantly. They had read it. But then, nothing happened. 3 hours later, her phone buzzed. A message from her mother appeared. Sabrina opened it with a fragile sense of hope, but what she received felt like a cold blow. "We need space. Don't contact us anymore." Before she could even process what was happening, a small notification appeared underneath. Her sister had liked that message. Just one tap. No explanation. No emotion. As if erasing her from their lives was completely normal. Sabrina didn't cry. She didn't get angry. There was only an emptiness spreading through her chest, as if someone had drained everything inside her. And in that very moment, she made 2 decisions. First, she blocked her entire family. Second, something none of them could have ever expected. She cut off the source of money they had depended on for the past 7 years. One message, one like, and a family began to collapse. To everyone else, the Nolan family seemed to live a comfortable life. No one had to worry about money. Bills were always paid on time. The house was well maintained, and personal expenses flowed steadily, as if money simply appeared in their accounts every month. But the truth was completely different. All of that money came from an inheritance fund left by their grandfather, a fund everyone in the family believed ran itself. They treated it as a given, something they were entitled to without ever questioning who was behind it. No one asked, no one checked, and no one ever said thank you. What they didn't know or never cared to know was that every dollar leaving that fund required an approval signature, and the one signing was Sabrina. For 7 years, Sabrina quietly handled everything. She managed the assets, tracked the finances, and ensured the fund always had enough to support her mother and sister. From rent, car payments, insurance, to personal spending, everything went through her. But she never mentioned it, not because she wanted to hide it, but because she believed family shouldn't be transactional. She stayed silent, hoping that one day they would realize that behind their easy life was her quiet sacrifice. But that day never came. And, ironically, the very people who lived off her signature were the first to say they didn't need her anymore. A bitter contradiction. The one holding up the entire foundation of the family was treated as if she didn't exist. March 15th started like any other day. Sabrina woke up at 6:15, made herself a cup of coffee, and looked at her grandfather's photo on the wall, his familiar smile greeting her every morning. She went to work, handled paperwork, called tenants, and dealt with small tasks like any other day. But one thing was different. She kept checking her phone, once, then again, and again. No messages, no calls, not a single happy birthday from anyone with the Nolan name. By noon, her best friend Claire called. "Happy birthday, Bina." Sabrina smiled, but it was forced, because Claire was the only one who remembered. The whole day passed in heavy silence. That evening, Sabrina sat in her car outside her house for nearly 10 minutes, not wanting to go inside. She already knew what was waiting for her: a dark, cold, empty home. No cake, no candles, no one. She reheated a bowl of leftover soup and ate alone in the kitchen. No lights, no TV, just silence. And in that moment, she couldn't pretend anymore. It hurt, not because she needed a celebration, but because she realized she didn't matter to her family If you've ever felt forgotten by your own family like this, come on. At 10:14 p.m., just as Sabrina had almost given up hope, her phone finally buzzed. Her heart skipped a beat. Her mother's name lit up on the screen. In that moment, she still hoped, however faintly, that it would be a late apology, or simply, "I'm sorry. Happy birthday." But when she opened the message, everything collapsed. "We've been meaning to say this for a long time. We need space. Don't contact us anymore." Sabrina read it once, then a second time, then a third, more slowly, as if hoping the words would somehow rearrange themselves into something more reasonable. But they didn't. The message remained just as cold. And then, a small detail appeared right below. Megan liked this message. No explanation, no questions, no emotion. Just a single tap. As if sealing the decision that she no longer belonged to this family, Sabrina sat on the edge of her bed, holding her phone with both hands. She didn't cry. She didn't react strongly. There was only a numbness spreading through her, as if everything inside her had been drained in a single second. This wasn't ordinary hurt anymore. This was the moment she realized. She hadn't just been forgotten. She had been deliberately erased. After reading the message, Sabrina didn't respond right away. She didn't text back. She didn't call. She did nothing. Instead, she quietly reopened the family chat. Her finger scrolled upward. Line after line of messages appearing. Just 3 days earlier, Megan, her younger sister, had posted a photo of a sparkling engagement ring. A princess-cut ring that her fiancé had spent months carefully choosing. Got her. Almost instantly, their mother replied, "My daughter, I'm so happy I could cry." Then came a flood of heart emojis. Megan responded, "I love you so much, Mom." The conversation went on. Dozens of messages, talking about the engagement party, the venue, decorations, the guest list. In total, more than 60 messages, all revolving around Megan's happiness. And then, Sabrina's message sat at the very bottom. "Hey, it's my birthday today." A short line, out of place. Like a stone dropped into a well, no one responded. No one continued the thread. No one came back to check on her. And just a few hours later, came her mother's message. "Don't contact us anymore." Sabrina stared at the screen. Not because she didn't understand, but because she understood too well. She wasn't part of that conversation. Not the center. Not even someone worth noticing. She was just on the outside. Someone who existed in the group chat, but not in their hearts. In that moment, Sabrina realized a truth she had ignored for years. This family functioned perfectly fine. As long as they didn't need her as a person. They only needed her when they needed her signature. If you've ever felt like you're present but invisible in your own family. Comment. The next morning, unable to sleep any longer, Sabrina walked into the kitchen. The space was as quiet as always. But something inside her had changed. Her eyes stopped on a photo hanging on the wall. Her grandfather, the only person who had ever truly seen her worth. In the picture, he stood in front of Riverside Grill, smiling simply. It was the day he signed his first real estate deal, the beginning of everything the family has today. But to Sabrina, he wasn't just the man who created wealth. He was the one who taught her everything. How to read contracts, how to manage money, how to look someone in the eye and keep her word. And then, when he became critically ill at the final stage, with no hope left, he called her to sit beside him. Not her mother, not her sister, but Sabrina. He told her something she would never forget. Take care of them, but take care of yourself first. For 7 years, Sabrina had followed only half of that advice. She took care of her family. Every month, like clockwork, she transferred money, making sure they never lacked anything. But the other half, take care of yourself first. She had forgotten. She buried it beneath the hope that one day, they would realize. One day, they would come back and say, "Thank you." But instead of gratitude, she received a message telling her to disappear. And standing there in the kitchen, looking at her grandfather's photo, Sabrina finally understood. Maybe. It was time to fulfill the other half of his words. Not out of selfishness, but because it was what he had trusted her to do from the very beginning. For the past 7 years, Sabrina hadn't just been helping her family. She had been supporting all of them, without anyone realizing. Every month, as steady as a clock, $4, 500 transferred into her mother's account. $3, 200 transferred to her sister. A total of nearly $7. 700. Every month, never late. Not once. Rent, car payments, insurance, credit cards, personal expenses. Everything was covered. Not because they earned it, but because Sabrina signed for it. 84 consecutive months. Not once did she forget. Not once did she delay. Not once did she refuse. She did it as a responsibility, as a promise to her grandfather, as a way to keep the family stable. But the most painful part wasn't the money. It was the silence. No thank you. No recognition. No one ever asked, who is behind all of this? They lived in that comfort, as if it were a given. And Sabrina kept convincing herself, one day, they'll understand. One day, they'll appreciate it. But 7 years passed. That day never came. Instead, what she received was a message. Don't contact us anymore. In that moment, something inside Sabrina shattered. Not because she lost her family, but because she realized she never truly had them in the way she believed. If you've ever given so much and received nothing in return, come on. After everything, Sabrina still didn't act right away. She sat there, holding her phone, as if waiting for something to change. Another message. An explanation. A sign that it was all just a misunderstanding. But nothing came. Only silence. And a truth becoming clearer than ever. The next morning, here. Phone rang. It was Claire. The moment Claire heard Sabrina's voice, she knew something was wrong. And when Sabrina told her everything, the message enters in Sabrina. The coldness. The line went quiet for a long moment. Then Claire said something Sabrina would never forget. You've been funding their entire lives. And they just told you to disappear? Do you realize how insane that is? That sentence hit like a direct blow of truth. Not comfort. Not emotional support. But a mirror reflecting exactly what Sabrina had tried not to see for 7 years. And for the first time, she didn't argue, didn't defend her mother, didn't make excuses for her sister. She just stayed silent and listened to her own thoughts. Everything began to connect. 7 years of signing money. 7 years without recognition. 7 years of unconditional hope. And one message that erased it all. This was no longer an impulsive moment from her family. It was the result of an entire pattern. And for the first time in many years, Sabrina saw everything with painful clarity. She wasn't family. She was a financial source. The call ended. No long advice. No concrete plan. But in Sabrina's mind, a decision was already beginning to form. If it were you, after making such a big decision, would you be strong enough not to turn back? Comment 1. On Sabrina's side, everything remained quiet. But on the other side, everything began to fall apart. The first day of the month arrived, the day when, for the past 7 years, Sabrina's mother's account had always received a familiar deposit. But this time, nothing came. At first, her mother assumed it was just a banking error. A delay. A minor technical issue. She called the bank. Her voice calm. The transfer from the family fund hasn't arrived in my account. The staff checked, then replied, that transfer has been suspended. Not an error. Not delayed. But completely stopped. Her calm began to crack. Then reactivate it. Push the money through. But the answer she received was even colder. We can't. All disbursements require approval from the fund manager. Sabrina's mother froze. Approval? What do you mean? The money has always transferred automatically. No, Mom. It has never been automatic. Someone has always approved it each month. A long silence stretched across the call. A truth was beginning to surface, but not yet fully clear. Immediately, she called the lawyer, Ray Whitfield. "Where is my money? The fund transfer didn't come." Ray kept his tone professional. "All disbursements from the fund require approval from the manager. It has always been that way. But it has always been transferred." "Yes, because someone approved it, every single month." This time, the silence was no longer confusion. It was shock. "You mean, someone has been signing for 7 years?" Ray didn't answer directly. He didn't need to, because the answer was already obvious. The person they had just told, "Don't contact us anymore," was the one who had silently sustained their lives for 84 months. And now, that person had stopped. Everything began to spiral out of control. Not because the money disappeared, but because, for the first time, they realized it had never truly belonged to them. That was the moment everything truly fell. No more doubt. No more misunderstanding. Just raw truth. 7 years. 7 years of steady money flowing into their accounts. 7 years of bills being paid. 7 years of comfort without ever asking why. And now, they knew. Nothing was automatic. Nothing was guaranteed. There was no grandfather in the sky sending money down. Every dollar had someone behind it. Someone who unlocked the fund. Someone who signed. Someone who took responsibility. That person was Sabrina. This truth didn't arrive gently. It hit like a blow to their awareness. Sabrina's mother began to remember. Every month, the money always arrived on time. Never late. Never missing. Not because the system was perfect, but because someone had quietly made sure it was. And Megan? She began to realize that her shopping trips, her credit card swipes, her lavish engagement plans, all rested on a foundation she had never seen. A foundation named Sabrina. And what was the cruelest part? That very person had just been erased from their lives days earlier. "Don't contact us anymore." Those words now turned back on them like a blade. Because this time, Sabrina actually followed their request. She disappeared, not just from their lives, but from the system that sustained them. What they felt now was no longer anger. It was panic, because for the first time, they realized they weren't just losing money. They were losing the only person keeping their lives from collapsing. And worse, that person was no longer there to save them. After the shock of realization, reality hit, faster than they expected. It was no longer the question of who controls the money, but how do we survive now? First, Sabrina's mother. The mortgage $2. 100 per month had always been covered by the fund. She hadn't needed to think about it for years. But now, with the cash flow cut off, her small savings would only last a few weeks. After that, the bank would call. Next, Megan. Her apartment. God. Credit cards all had been fed by the fund. Without the $3, 200 monthly support, she had almost no ability to sustain herself. Within weeks, Megan would fall into debt. But the fastest thing to collapse wasn't any of that. It was something else. The engagement party, planned 3 months in advance. A luxury venue. Fully arranged decorations. Final cost, $6. Lambe. And the most important part? No one had put down a deposit with their own money. No one had prepared a backup plan. Because in their minds, the money from the fund was always there. They had built their entire lives on one single belief. That everything would run on its own. But now, with just one click from Sabrina, everything began to collapse in a domino effect. Housing, daily living, future plans. One by one, everything started to shake. And the most ironic part? It wasn't that they had no money. It was that they didn't know how to live without Sabrina. If you've ever seen someone only take without preparing for the future, comment. Even though everything was clear, Sabrina wasn't heartless. She sat in the kitchen, thinking about what she had just done. It wasn't just money. It was her mother's life, her sister's future, an entire family fractured as it was still once a place she belonged to. And deep inside, a part of her began to speak. What if I turn the money back on? What if I give them one more chance? That was the one. 2-year-old Sabrina, the little girl who always wanted to make her mother proud, the version of her that tried to keep the peace, even at the cost of herself. That feeling was real and very hard to silence. But then, another memory surfaced. Not a good one, but the message from that night. We've been meaning to say this for a long time. Not a moment of anger. Not a temporary misunderstanding. But a decision that had been thought through. They had talked about it, agreed on it, and chose her birthday to say it. That changed everything. This wasn't a mistake that needed forgiveness. This was a choice. And Sabrina began to understand something important. She wasn't the one abandoning her family. Her family had abandoned her first. Claire was right. You're not choosing between money and family. They already chose. The moment they told you to disappear. That sentence kept replaying in Sabrina's mind. She wasn't destroying anything. She was simply stopping the maintenance of something that had already died long ago. And for the first time, she allowed herself to do something she hadn't done in 7 years. Choose herself. Not out of selfishness, but because she finally understood that if she didn't, no one else would. On the 4th day after her birthday, Sabrina decided to do one thing. She unblocked her phone. Not to respond. Just to look. The screen lit up. Notifications appeared. 99 plus missed calls. Not 5. Not 10. But too many for the system to even count precisely. Names kept appearing. Mom. Megan. Derek. Even Aunt Patty, the one Sabrina barely ever spoke to. She opened her voicemail. The first message from her mother still calm. Sabrina, call me back. Something's wrong with the bank. The second starting to worry. Sweetheart, there must be some mistake with the fund. Call me. The third, her tone softening. I didn't mean it like that. Can we talk? But as the messages went on, the tone changed. You can't do this to me. This is family money. Your grandfather left it for all of us. No longer explanations. Not explanations, but demands. Then they turned into accusations. And Megan? Shorter. More direct. Sabrina, this isn't funny. My engagement party is in 3 weeks. Call me back now. This is important. Not a single word of concern. Not a single apology. Sabrina kept scrolling. Message. Calls. Voicemails. All of them revolved around one thing. Money. Where's the transfer? When is the money coming? Call the bank. Fix this now. No one said. Are you okay? Were you hurt by what happened? I'm sorry for what we said. Not once. Not a single person. In those 99 plus calls, there wasn't even one happy birthday. Sabrina paused. Not because she was shocked, but because everything was so clear. She wasn't a daughter. Not a sister. She was the emergency line for their wallet. When the money stopped, they called. Not because they missed her, but because they needed her. Sabrina put her phone down. Without hesitation. Blocked them all. Again. And that night, for the first time in days, she slept peacefully. Not because everything was okay, but because she had seen the truth and stopped lying to herself. After 99 missed calls, Sabrina no longer felt confused. She no longer wondered, did I overreact? Should I give them another chance? Because the answer was already in those calls. Not one apology. Not one word of care. Not one person truly asking how she felt. Everything revolved around one thing. Money. And that alone helped Sabrina realize a truth she had avoided for years. She had never been loved the way she thought. She was needed but not valued. Those two things are completely different. Being needed means You matter because you provide something. Sabrina had lived 7 years in that role. A problem solver. A provider. The one who kept everything from falling apart. But never. The one placed at the center of love. And the moment she stopped providing material value, the way they treated her disappeared too. No more pretending. No more masking. Only raw truth. Sabrina didn't cry. She simply understood. Understood that she didn't lose a family. She lost the illusion of one. And for the first time, she no longer felt empty. Because when you see the truth, you're no longer trapped in false expectations. She stood up, turned off the lights, and went to bed. Not to escape, but to begin a new life. One where her value was no longer defined by how much others needed her. If you've ever realized that people only remember you when they need you. Comment, 6 days after her birthday, at 7 a.m., the doorbell rang. Sabrina was still in her pajamas, holding a cup of coffee. She looked through the peephole. Her mother was standing there. No call beforehand. No text message. She simply showed up. Sabrina opened the door, but didn't step aside. She stood right in the doorway, keeping her distance. Her mother spoke immediately. "We need to talk. You can't do this to me." The tone wasn't apologetic. It was demanding. Sabrina replied calmly. "You were the one who told me not to contact you." A brief pause. Then her mother shifted, using a familiar tactic. "That's not what I meant. I'm your mother. I sacrificed everything for you and your sister." Guilt, pressure, the role of being a daughter, all brought out, like tools. But this time, Sabrina didn't waver. She didn't react emotionally. She simply said, "I'm not punishing you. I'm just fulfilling my responsibility as the fund manager." No longer the vulnerable daughter, but someone standing in clarity and authority. Her mother froze. Then her expression changed. From shock to anger. "Your grandfather would be ashamed of you." A strike aimed at her deepest emotions. But Sabrina took a sip of her coffee, then replied, "He told me to take care of myself first. I'm doing exactly what he said." No raised voice. No argument. Just certainty. Her mother had nothing left to say. She turned and walked away, her heels striking hard against the concrete. At the end of the driveway, she stopped, glancing toward a nearby neighbor, deliberately raising her voice. "My own daughter is punishing her mother." A statement meant for others, not for Sabrina. The door closed. The space returned to silence. But this time, there was no pressure. Sabrina stood there, holding her coffee. No guilt. No fear. Only one feeling. She was no longer being controlled. After that confrontation, Sabrina wasn't surprised anymore. Because this wasn't the first time she had been treated this way. It was just the first time. She didn't let it slide. Memories began to resurface. 2 years ago, during Christmas, her mother hosted dinner at the house, the very house whose mortgage Sabrina's fund had been paying every month. The dining room was beautifully decorated. New curtains, scented candles, a perfectly set table. Everything had been bought with money. Sabrina approved. But when Megan and her boyfriend arrived, her mother embraced them like honored guests, smiling, asking questions, beaming with pride. Gifts were exchanged. Megan received a gold bracelet. Her boyfriend got a premium leather wallet. And Sabrina? A greeting card grabbed last minute from a checkout counter. No handwritten message. No signature. No emotion. She picked it up and asked softly, "Did you forget to write something?" Megan shook her head, smirking. "Don't be so sensitive. It's Christmas, not your therapy session." Her mother stayed silent. No defense. No explanation. Just changed the subject, as if Sabrina had never spoken. That night, Sabrina still stayed, had dinner, washed the dishes, forced a smile, then went home to her small apartment, sat alone in the kitchen, eating leftover cake, in silence. And the next morning, she still opened her laptop, still logged into the system, still approved the transfers as if nothing had happened. Not because she didn't feel the pain, but because she believed. Keeping the peace means keeping the family. But now, looking back, Sabrina finally understood. She hadn't preserved a family. She had been maintaining a one-sided relationship, where she was always the one giving, and taken for granted. The signs had always been there. She had just chosen not to see them. If her mother hurt her through silence, then Megan, her younger sister, did it more directly. A year before that birthday, Megan called Sabrina. No greeting. No small talk. Just one sentence. I need $12. 000 from the fund. Deposit and first month's rent for a new apartment. Sabrina paused. That wasn't a small amount. She asked calmly. What about your current apartment? Megan replied quickly. It's too cramped. Derek is practically living with me already. I need a bigger place. This one has a balcony. Wooden floors. It's really nice. Not, I want. Not, what do you think? But, a decision already made. And Sabrina was just there to execute it. And like every other time, Sabrina agreed. Charmayan. 000 was transferred within 48 hours. No thank you. Just one sentence. Finally done. I've been waiting for 2 weeks. Not gratitude, but irritation at having to wait. But it didn't stop there. A month later, Sabrina discovered something else. Megan hadn't given up her old apartment. She kept it and rented it out to her former roommate for $800 a month in cash. The fund paid the rent. The extra money, Megan kept. When Sabrina gently asked about it, Megan's response left her speechless. It's not your money anyway. It's Grandpa's. One sentence that revealed everything. In Megan's eyes, there was no sacrifice, no effort, no Sabrina, only Grandpa's money. As if the money appeared on its own, as if Sabrina was just a name on paper. Sabrina swallowed those words. No reaction, no argument, because she believed. Keeping the peace mattered. But now, looking back, she understood. That was the moment she should have stopped. Not when they said, don't contact us anymore. But when they started treating everything she did as something expected, and worse, treating her as if she didn't exist. When the money stopped, Sabrina's family didn't stay silent anymore. They took action. Not to apologize. Not to reconcile. But to take back what they had lost. Megan came first. She walked straight into Sabrina's office. No appointment. No knock. We need to talk. The tone wasn't that of a younger sister. It sounded like a client, demanding their rights. Sabrina remained seated. Calm. Appointments are required during business hours. Megan snapped. Don't talk like that. This is family. But Sabrina was no longer playing by the old rules. What do you need? The answer came instantly. The engagement party needs $8. 000 by Friday. You have to release the funds. No. Please. No. Can you? Just a demand. Sabrina replied briefly. All disbursements are currently paused. If needed, you can contact the lawyer. Megan froze. Not because she didn't understand, but because, for the first time, she was being refused. Derek, Megan's fiancé, stepped forward, his tone softer. Can we just put the family stuff aside and handle this? It sounded reasonable, but revealed everything. To them, emotions didn't matter. As long as the money came back, everything would be fine. Sabrina looked straight at him. You're asking me to put aside the fact that they told me to disappear? No one answered. No one explained. No one admitted fault. Only a heavy silence. Megan pulled Derek back, her voice sharp. I told you. She's not going to help. Then she turned to Sabrina, eyes red. You're going to regret this. Maybe. But this time, Sabrina didn't react. No argument. No explanation. She just sat there, steady, because she knew. This was no longer a discussion. This was the first time she stopped serving them. And they didn't know what to do when that happened. After Megan stormed out of the office, Sabrina didn't follow. She just sat there, in silence. And for the first time, she no longer felt pulled into their chaos. But then, something unexpected happened. Not from her mother. Not from Megan. But from the past. That evening, while organizing old emails, Sabrina came across a message sent by her mother 5 years ago. The subject line was simple. About the fund? She opened it. Just a few short lines. Don't tell anyone that you manage the fund. People will think I can't provide for the family. Just let the money come in regularly. I'll handle the rest. Sabrina read it again. Once. Then a second time. A third time. More slowly. And this time, she understood. Before, she thought her mother was just ashamed. Ashamed of depending on her daughter. Ashamed of others finding out. So Sabrina agreed. She stayed silent. She kept signing the transfers. She let her mother keep the image. But now, she saw something different. Her mother didn't want to hide it out of shame. She wanted to take all the credit. She wanted the neighbors to think she was the one providing for the family. She wanted people to admire her independence. She wanted Megan to believe the money came from entitlement, not from Sabrina. And to make that happen, she had asked Sabrina to disappear from the picture. Not just now, but 5 years ago. What did that mean? The message, "Don't contact us anymore," wasn't the first time Sabrina had been erased. It was just the first time. It was said out loud. Sabrina sat there in silence. Not angry. Not crying. Just facing a truth that was too clear. She hadn't only been used for money. She had been erased from her own family's story. And for 7 years, she had agreed to it. But this time, she wouldn't stay silent anymore. No need to expose anything. No need to argue. Just stop playing the invisible role. And that alone was enough to start changing everything. Amid all the chaos from her family, something unexpected happened. One evening, the doorbell rang. Not her mother. Not Megan. But Claire. In her hands was a last-minute birthday cake. A few cheap bottles of wine. And 3 old friends Sabrina hadn't seen in a long time. We're having a late birthday party. No refusing. Nothing fancy. No elaborate planning. Just 5 people. Sitting on the floor of a small living room. Eating cake. Laughing. Lighting candles. Shaped like the number 34. But this time, everything felt different. No one forgot her. No one ignored her. Every wish was genuine. Every gaze met her directly, not because of what she could do, but because of who she was. One friend handed her a card, not a store-bought one, but handwritten lines short, yet enough to make her pause. You deserve people who remember you. Sabrina read it, and for the first time after everything, she cried, not out of pain, but because she was seen. Claire also gave her an old photo, a younger Sabrina, standing beside her grandfather, smiling brightly. A moment when she never had to prove her worth to anyone. Claire said, "This is what family really is. Not people who share your blood, but people who choose to stay, people who remember your birthday, people who listen to you, people who show up when you need them." That night, Sabrina realized something she hadn't understood in 7 years. Family isn't a place where you have to fight to be accepted. Family is where you are valued without trying. And for the first time, she no longer felt loss, because she had found what truly mattered. If you believe that family isn't just blood, but the people who genuinely stand by you, comment on. Just a few days after that late birthday, Sabrina began hearing whispers. Not directly, not face to face, but through others. A friend messaged her. "Did you cut off your mom financially? People are saying you abandoned your family." Sabrina paused. Then she understood. Her mother had started telling the story her own way. In that version, Sabrina was the ungrateful daughter. Cold, heartless, the one who suddenly cut off financial support and destroyed the family's life. No one mentioned the 7 years. No one mentioned the messages. No one mentioned her birthday. Just a narrative where Sabrina was the villain, and for the first time, she faced a choice: explain or stay silent. 3 weeks later, Megan's engagement party still took place. Not cancelled, not postponed, because they believed everything would work itself out. A luxury restaurant, elegantly decorated tables, guests dressed impeccably. Laughter filled the room as if nothing had ever happened. Sabrina's mother stood in the center, smiling, greeting guests, maintaining her perfect image, as always. Megan walked arm in arm with Derek, glowing. Everything looked fine until the restaurant manager approached. No noise, no scene. He simply leaned in and said quietly to Sabrina's mother, "Mom, we'll need the remaining payment before we can continue service." The smile on her face froze. "We have the fund. Mom, we've checked. No payment has been made." The atmosphere shifted instantly. Megan turned. "Mom?" Derek frowned. Guests began to notice. A few started whispering. The truth was no longer hidden in messages or phone calls. It was happening right here in front of everyone. Sabrina's mother tried to stay calm. "It's just a mistake. We'll take care of it." But no one moved. No one had the money. No one said it out loud. But everyone saw. The looks began to change. From curiosity to suspicion. From suspicion to realization. Some guests whispered, "I thought this family was well off. Didn't they always say they were self-sufficient?" The truth began to spread without anyone needing to explain. Derek pulled Megan aside, his voice low but tense. "What's going on?" Megan had no answer, because for the first time, she didn't understand her own life either. Across the room, the manager no longer kept his gentle tone. "We need payment immediately. Otherwise, we'll have to stop the event. No more delays." No one left to sign for them. Sabrina's mother stood in the middle of the room, her face tight. She looked around, searching for an exit, for someone to fix this. But there was no one. No Sabrina. And that was the moment everything truly collapsed. Not because of a lack of money, but because the truth had been exposed. This family could not stand on its own. They had been living off someone they had just pushed away. Reputation, image, the independence they had built for years, shattered in just a few minutes. Sabrina didn't need to be there. She didn't need to say a word. The moment she was gone, everything fell apart on its own. In another part of the city, Sabrina sat in her small apartment. No phone, no noise, just an ordinary evening. But this time, she was no longer the one holding someone else's life together. She was beginning to build her own. And that was the real turning point. No one was prepared, because for so long, they had never needed to be. And for the first time, the image of a perfect family began to crack. Not because Sabrina exposed anything, but because she stopped holding it together. After everything that happened, Sabrina didn't go back. No explanations. No justifications. No attempt to fix what had already broken. Because for the first time in her life, she understood something clearly. Just because they are family doesn't mean you have to endure everything. For 7 years, she believed, sacrifice equals love. Silence keeps the peace. Giving is how you hold a family together. But the truth was the opposite. The more you give unconditionally, the more you're taken for granted. The more you stay silent, the more you're overlooked, and the more you try to hold on, the more you lose yourself. Sabrina didn't lose her family in this story. She simply stopped holding on to a relationship that no longer truly existed. What she gained wasn't money, but freedom, self-respect, and a life no longer controlled by other people's emotions. She started over, slowly, gently, but truly her own. And the biggest lesson Sabrina learned: setting boundaries is not selfish. It's how you protect your own worth. No one has the right to expect you to sacrifice forever. No one has the right to treat you poorly and still expect you to keep giving. And no one can make you feel guilty for choosing yourself. If you believe that self-respect matters more than pleasing everyone, come on,